everyone who is tuning in. Good afternoon. I'm just gonna wait a couple minutes for people to join. I hope you all had a great day. And thank you so much for tuning in for HERVERSATION. We're gonna tune in just a moment. I will begin in just a moment. Just waiting for our guests to join in. Oh, well, here we are.
Can you see? Oh,
Hi,
okay.
Erica.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm
Oh,
good.
good.
Oh, that was very easy.
All right. All right, we are ready to get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Hadassah DeBush, and welcome to a Woman's Voice series, HERVERSATION. Monday, we're so happy that you joined us. A Woman's Voice Matters is a wonderful platform that gathers women from all walks of life, and we just try to be an answer or try to provide answers as best as we can. And today is one of those days. Joining me today for our HERVERSATION, the topic is Money Smart and Branding Smart, and we have millennial success strategist Erica Pierce with us. She is the founder of the Millennial Boardroom. Thank you so much, Erica, for joining us today.
Oh, no, thank you so much for having me. I love just the work that you guys are doing. It's really important to have these types of conversations. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, let's jump right on in. My first question to you is, what made you choose to be a millennial strategist? Or I guess a strategist to the millennials.
Sure. I'm actually not quite a millennial. I'm 40, and so I'm right between Gen Z and millennials. It's
Right.
called an exennial. I didn't make that up. It's a real a real term. But throughout my whole career, I've always, had just a desire, a passion for helping people. And so, in my career, I had some very early successes. Some things I had to learn the hard way. Some things I learned by studying and connecting with other people. And so what I now do is I now really help and coach millennials who are trying to navigate, just life, which is not easy, as we all know.
Mhm.
And I really help them come up with the strategies for being successful. So, I'm all about, let's really think about the actionable tactics that you can take in your life to get you from where you are to where you want to be. And so, it's a career path that I kind of have self-created, but it's something that I really enjoy doing, and I really do believe is my passion in the work I was called to do.
Wonderful. And I have to say this, so I don't like calling myself a millennial. And for those of you who don't know, Erica is also an author. She is the author
Oh,
for the Millennial Playbook to Adulting. It's a great read. I highly recommend that you grab it. But when I read this book, I was so happy when you wrote the truth about what people think of millennials, which is hard for me to, which is partly why I have a hard time telling people that I am a millennial. It's because it seems like there's a preconceived notion that
oh yeah.
millennials are lazy, are just stuck on their tech, on their phone, and just don't want to do anything. I'm like, that's not me. So I was happy when you wrote in your book how that's important, so you can change that perspective in people's mind, which I don't even know where it came from. But thank you for writing that and
Yeah.
to millennials.
Yeah, millennials definitely get a bad rap. I mean, I always say millennials kind of need to be rebranded because there are so many millennials who are doing so many extraordinary things, who are creating, new paths and, becoming entrepreneurs and also being successful, just in the business and corporate world. So unfortunately, just for whatever reason, sometimes the media likes to, hold on to, oh, millennials are all laying on their parents' couch and they don't want to do anything. But it's really not the case. There are certain importantly, some really, amazing millennials out there. So I hate that it has such a bad
I
connotation.
know. Not too long ago, they were talking on the news how they wanted to say the young folk. They didn't really say which generation was out on the beach during COVID, just like it's not the millennials. The millennials are working. A lot of us are, some of us are parents and things like
Yeah.
that.
Well,
Like,
people forget that.
Gen Z.
Yeah, exactly. People think that millennials are just 20-year-olds. And so they
Yeah.
think like, oh, you grow out of being a millennial. But the same way baby boomers are always baby boomers, millennials are always millennials. So it's 24 to 39. So the oldest millennial, like they are grown people. They're not they're not just 20-year-olds that just graduated from college. That is Gen Z.
Oh, and just for the sake of this platform, I also speak to the young adults. I'm gonna say the young adults, millennial
Okay.
generations, Gen Z for Women's Voice Matters, whom we also call as a trailblazers. So today's topic will touch. It's actually good for everyone. Doesn't matter your age group. It's not age specific. But it just so happens that my target audience is to the millennials. But this is also good for those business owners or those who just want some financial tips, especially during COVID. Erica is going to give us some insight on how to do those things. My next question to you is, what inspired you to write to the millennials, the Millennial Playbook to Adulting?
So, because in my career, I worked in corporate America for a long time, and I became a vice president of the company that I worked for when I was 28 years old. And, it was one of those things that I was saying before. I just kind of like studied success. I was like, I wanted to figure out, how do I not fail at this big job that I now have? And so because of that, people would always come to me and say, Erica, can you, look at my resume? Can we do a mock interview with you? Or I have this situation that's happening at work. Can you kind of give me your thoughts on it? And these would sometimes be my friends, just my peers, as well as, sometimes just people, friends of friends, cousins, things like that. And so I was like, you know what? Especially when it came to millennials, everyone's complaining about millennials, but no one's saying, all right, if we really believe that there are things that maybe kind of, just jumped over that generation, why don't we give them all of those? Why don't we give them the information instead of just being like, ugh, I can't believe you don't know that. So I was like, you know what I want to do? I want to write a book that kind of pulls all the questions that I'm being asked and all the issues that I'm being asked, pull it all together in a book and make it actionable, because I hate when people are like, oh, just work hard and you'll do well in life. But that's not always the case. We know that, right?
Right.
The book is very like, okay, if you want to keep a job, here are 25 things you should be doing. If you want to save money, here are the 10 things that you should be doing. I mean, it's very actionable, tells you, how to immediately close the book and get to work. And so that was my intent. Like, I want people to read the book and be like, oh my God, I have to go now and start, start doing these things.
Job well done on writing this book. I
Oh,
mean,
thank you.
very
Thank you.
engaging and practical and helpful, even from a millennial who read the book.
Yeah, and also easy to read. I hope it was kind of a fun book,
very, yes.
because it has a lot of stories in it that are just about either my life that I've experienced, other people's lives. It has quotes in there, everyone from Benjamin Franklin to Nicki Minaj is quoted. Like, it was really meant to be something you could read really quickly, but you felt like you got something out of it.
Exactly. With all that's happening with COVID, and just the changes that we're faced with today, what would you say are some advice or some opportunities that us young adults, Generation Z, millennials, or just anyone really, what opportunities do you think we should seize now?
Well, I think the first opportunity that you should seize is to make sure you're taking care of yourself, first of all. I've been, talking to a lot of millennials. I talk to myself about this too, is just making sure that we just stay in good, mental health, physical health, all those things. We cannot be productive and successful in business and entrepreneurship. We can't be creative or any of those things if we're not taking care of our minds, our bodies, and all of those pieces. So that is the first advice I give to anybody. And again, that doesn't mean just millennials, but what the studies are showing is that the pandemic is impacting millennials a little bit differently in terms of that lack of connection that the generation really needs. And so I think, self-care is incredibly important right now. But then I would say, I think it's a time to really, take advantage of it. Take advantage of the fact that things are not moving at 100 miles per hour. I mean, I'm someone who literally used to get on a plane every single week. I used to travel every single week. I had to go speak somewhere. I had to go, do a meeting here or do whatever. And I would be just, okay, I could be there tomorrow, no problem. And so what this time has taught me, and which I think it can really teach other people, is just, really dig deep, do some inward, thinking about what you want your life to look like.
Right.
Really, figure out what are your passions, what are your hobbies,
Mm-hmm.
what are some opportunities that maybe even in entrepreneurship that you really want to explore. You hear a lot about the word, side hustle. I don't really love the word side hustle, but but I believe all of us are multi-passionate, meaning we have so many things that we can be passionate about that we can really, kind of just go after and get focused on. And if there was ever a time to do it, I think it's right now while, things are not so, crazy. This is really, well, things are crazy. I shouldn't say that, but life isn't moving at such a fast pace where you have the time to really reflect.
Yeah.
So, start writing down those things. Write 10 things that you think that you're great at. Write 10 things that have occurred to you that you could turn maybe into, a lesson that's happened to you that you could turn into a business. It could be an ebook. It could be, something, a service you could provide, volunteering, just figure out how it is that you want to utilize this time.
Yeah. I like that you used the word multi-passionate. I think that's the best. Right. Especially, I'm also inspired by my peers because a lot of us are, business owners. But for those who aren't business owners, and social media has caught our attention, and we're seeing, people post this, how they're doing this, and how their business has gained this or whatever. But taking the time to understand that learn what's best for you. What are the things that you like? Documenting what's important to you. The 10 things that describes who you are, instead of just wanting to compete with the next person, or but that's not healthy. And
No.
it's all about doing what's healthy and what's best for you. Thank you for sharing that. My next question is finances.
Okay.
Some of us are really good at it, and some are they could use
Some of us are a work in progress.
work in progress. What are some advice that you can share with just really everyone on just helpful financial choices, how to make better financial choices?
Yeah, so my number one advice I give in that area, and I talk about it in the book as well. I think it's the last chapter, chapter 9, I believe, or 10. I can't remember. Is all about kind of getting your money together. And so one of the first things that, in order to do that, one of the first things you have to do is you have to know the state of your money, affairs. You have to really, figure out how much do you owe in student loans? How much do you owe in credit cards? How much are you, getting, how much is coming out of your paycheck every month? Can you change any things around? Should you be giving more to your 401k? Do you have some other businesses that you also can account for? What are the interest rates? Just all of those things. You need to actually do a financial audit. And I host a podcast. I don't remember the episode off the top of my head, but I walk you through the process of how to do a personal finance audit, because you really want to come out with, what is your number, in terms of what are your liabilities and what are your assets. And then when you subtract those, that's kind of, that's what you have right there. And so from there, you can start building out a budget and figuring out, what your disposable income is, where you could potentially be investing. It's never too early to start learning about investing and then start investing. But, again, you have to know where you are to get where you're going. And sometimes, and I'll be honest with you, I'm one of those people too. Sometimes it's easier to just operate in, I feel like, I have enough money. Like there's enough, I don't know exactly how much, but nothing's being declined. And, so it can be easy to operate like that, but that is not the smart way.
Right.
And so by doing that audit, and there's so many apps right now that can help you just to make it really easy, very clear that you can track your spending. I mean, I'm someone where I'm not the extreme person. There are some people who can tell you at every, moment, oh, I have, this much money down to the cent. Or I notice if I get my checking account balance and I notice if it's $20 off because that doesn't sound right. I'm not that extreme. But what I do know is, I'm aware of what my money habits are, what money is coming in, what money is going out. And again, if there was ever a time where to figure it out, the time is now.
Yeah, exactly. I think doing a financial audit has no age limit attached to it. And then one other rule of thumb, I guess, when I was back in my undergrad days, where I wasn't making no money. I was working on campus and things like that. So you're kind of like, I don't want to look at my checking account. If I don't look at it, then I'm safe. But for those, for those of you, whether you're in undergrad or you're in college, or you're still working your way in your career and things like that, you do have to look at your checking account.
Yeah.
And just because it may not have the surplus that you would like in your mind, still manage your finances by looking at it, because that's the first step. So
Yeah.
it doesn't mean it's going to go anywhere. It's not going to go anywhere. Thank you for that. My next question, what are ways that millennials can save while in college?
Well, I mean, look, the first way to save is to, again, know where the sort of the fat is in your spending. And that's really just identifying where it is that you're spending unnecessary money. So are you spending a lot of money on Uber Eats? You may be spending less money on the actual Uber right now, but, identify where there are things that you can cut out. Think about even like all the streaming apps. Do you have Netflix, Spotify, Hulu, all those little things, all those things that end in 99, they all start to, add up. And so you really have to identify where you can cut back. I believe, come up with a target number that you want to start saving. In college, if you're not working yet, it may be a little bit more difficult because you're getting money either from, your parents or from student loans, things like that. But once you start working, one of the ways that really helped me start to save is that when your company gives you that form for direct deposit, usually you can pick more than one account that you can have your money go to. Start just sending automatically. It could be $50 a paycheck, $100 a paycheck, but have it start going out of your paycheck automatically to a completely separate account that you don't have access to, so you never see that money. You never touch that money. It's not linked on your phone, so you can't transfer it back and forth really quick. Just keep it separate. And again, it could be $20 a paycheck. Just start somewhere so you at least start to have that cushion. I mean, I think what we've learned in this time is that life can change like this. And you might have had a job and all of a sudden you don't, or you might have had plans that were going to occur and now they're not. And so you have to be prepared for the unknown.
Yeah, I agree. And then I think another way to also save money while in college, while I was in undergrad, now while I completely support living the college life and, having that college experience by living on the dorms, I lived 20 minutes away from my campus. And I was living on campus, and it wasn't until the second year, and I thought about it, and I was just like, okay, I think I'm all right. I had the experience, and I'm like, I could be saving a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
The reality was, I did. I saved. So for those, I absolutely support, living on campus and sure, meeting, getting to know what it's like to, live on your own and things like that. But if, when it comes time to when student loans start to add up and things like that, if you're not on, have some kind of grant or scholarship or go to school on a full ride or, have free housing or anything like that, consider, if you do live close by, consider perhaps, maybe commuting. It will definitely save on your college, your student loans in the long run. But again, I completely support it, but that's just another think about or consider.
That's a good one. I mean, dramatically. And especially right now, I mean, I know some people who've gone back to campuses, but they're not going, they don't have to go on campus to go to class, right? And so, because they're doing all of their work virtually. So it's kind of like, why do you even need to be that close to campus if you could be saving money and live a little bit further away?
Very good. And what would you say are some common financial pitfalls that I guess young adults take, and how do we avoid them?
The credit cards.
Yeah.
They're not as bad as they used to be. So when I went to college, they would literally set the tables up and they were like, come get this credit card. You don't have to pay money. I literally remember the first thing I bought on a credit card, it was that return to Tiffany's necklace and bracelet. I was in college. I could not afford it, but I put it on my Discover card and I paid on that bracelet and necklace for about probably like 7 years. Okay. That's crazy. So what cost, I don't know, probably $200. I probably ended up spending, like $2,000 on it with the interest rates over time. So just know that, having a credit card and establishing credit is important. So I'm not here to say don't ever get a credit card, because you do need to establish you do need to establish having some sort of, credit history if you do need, a loan or a mortgage or something, a car loan one day. But it is the number one pitfall. Do not believe that you can just buy stuff, put it on a credit card, and some magic fairy comes and pays it off. Unless those magic fairies are your parents, which that was not mine. So just be aware of that. And now I see it happening not just for credit cards, but even when you go to buy stuff. Like I've seen, like Fashion Nova will say, "Oh, you can put this, $20 pair of jeans on like a 5 payment plan." That is crazy. So, just be aware. If you cannot afford something, you have to just be able to say, it's not for me right now. The things that you want to put on your credit card is an emergency. I need to fly home tomorrow because of something that, maybe unfortunate happened. That's the type of thing that you want to make sure that you have. And you don't want your credit limit to already be, reached because you just bought a bunch of stuff that you couldn't afford. So be aware of that. All of what those interest rates are, what you're really paying. And if you don't have the maturity to really handle it, then you probably don't need one right now. Or you need to get one and, kind of clip it up so you at least have the credit history. But that's the number one pitfall.
Very good.
I think.
No, it is because what was it? When I first was able to get a credit card, I didn't do the right things. So, and I ended up having to, of course, you got to pay it back, but common pitfalls that you can avoid, because I think most of us, of those who are watching, can agree to the fact that we have all been there, done that. So just trying to save you to avoid some of those mistakes.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And there are many millennial entrepreneurs. What are some tips you can share with our viewers today when it comes to branding and just starting their own business?
Well, I'm someone I've been an entrepreneur practically all my life. I've always had that gene in me, and, I'm an entrepreneur to this day. But what I see happening a lot right now is that people are really, you see all this stuff happening on Instagram and other platforms, right? Where people are like, "Oh, I started this online business and I now make 6 figures." And, they make it look like you can just buy my online course and I'll teach you how to do it. And it's $1,000, but you'll get that back overnight. And I'm not saying some of those courses and resources are not useful, but what I tell people, especially entrepreneurs that are starting out that I work with or that come to me, is number one, there's no such thing as an overnight success. So get that out of your head. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of perseverance. It's going to take a lot of tenacity, and just, you're going to have to put in your time. But the other thing too is that you have to be very clear on what your niche is. You need to be very clear on who your target customer, client, buyer is. Give them a name. In entrepreneurship, we call it an avatar. Like, what do they look like? Where did they go to school? How much money are they making? What's their name? Like, really think about who your buyer is, and then just really focus on trying to serve that buyer in terms of all of your marketing, in terms of what you build out. And also know that you cannot really just sell people on Instagram or on social media. You can build trust with them. You can build a rapport with them. But most of the selling where they're actually going to pay for you to do something, it's going to have to come usually, in other forms. And so people really think, oh, I'm just, I'll open up my shop and I'll just say, hey, you can buy from me. Here's my link. And then they're surprised that nobody went and bought from them. Yeah. So I think that's really just sometimes a misconception that you can just, completely build a 6-figure business just by posting some pictures about whatever it is that you're selling or service that you're providing. It takes a lot more work than that.
Why would you say proper branding is important when it comes to business owners?
Because branding is everything. I mean, I teach a lot on personal branding as well as professional branding. And branding, again, is really going to help people know, who you are, what you're selling. So branding is sort of the emotional response that someone feels when they either see a person or see a company name or, see anything. And so you have to really make sure that you're very clear on your brand. A confused buyer does not buy. If I don't really understand what you're selling, if I don't really understand you, if I don't really get it, I'm not going to buy from you, right? So branding is really what is going to make you credible, it's going to make you trustworthy. trustworthy. I mean, again, why are people, going to take their money that they've worked hard for and spend it on what you're offering? And unfortunately, right now, there's a lot of junk being sold out there. There's lots of things that people are sort of packaging up and saying, oh, you can buy this for, $19 or $47, things like that. And so, but you have to make sure your brand is very clear on what you're selling, why you're selling it, and why people should buy it from you.
Very good. For those who are are interested in starting their business, or where should they focus their energy? I guess when they start in the interim.
So the first thing to do is have a business plan. And I think some people get very overwhelmed by business plan. They think that it means, oh my goodness, I have to have an MBA, or I have to go find somebody that can help me. And let me see if I have, here's my business plan actually. And you can see, I look at it every day. It's so ratty. And so, but it's a 1-page business plan. Awesome. And it's not something that is overwhelming. It has literally what my objectives are, what my strategies are, and what my action item are. And this is for September through December. So, do it in a quarter, have a 1-year plan, but you can break it down into quarters, or, I had to rework it because a lot of stuff happened this year that was unexpected. But you need to have a plan that you're operating from, and you need to be looking at it every single day. You want it to look like this.
Exactly, something that you can look at and just, as we say, write the vision and make it plain. Yeah. So have it somewhere where you can see it and remind yourself and keep you on track of your goals, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you have to know where you're going. So many people just think that I'll figure it out along the way, but you won't. You'll end up not getting there. You might get there, but the way might be a longer way. And so having a true plan with measurable things and dates. Dates are clear. That's what I have on here. Yes. That's how you're going to start moving forward.
Very good. Erica, thank you so much for your time. Are there any last advice or words that you would share with us today?
Sure. The thing I would say is also during this time, I think what we've had to learn is that you have to become comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? And so growth never occurs in our comfort zones. And so again, push yourself to think outside the box, to live outside the box. I know so many of us have had to, pivot, and things are not exactly what we thought they were going to look like in September 2020, but really figure out how you can make this work to your advantage. Really make sure that you're thinking about, I went through a lot of stuff this year in 2020, but I came out this way. And so don't overwhelm yourself, but definitely realize it's all part of growth.
Yes, absolutely. And on another, one of the earlier series, we shared how it's important to document 2020, document the journey. If that means writing for you, the Gathering of Ladies from the Gathering at Forest Hills, we have what's it called, the 2020 Good News Jar, and it's literally a jar where although it seems like there's so much trouble around us, there are still good things happening. Yeah. And just focus on the things, the positive things, and there are so many reasons to be grateful. I'm alive. I'm still here. For those still employed, for those of us who are, and there's just so many little things, just and document those things, put them in the jar. And if that for you it's writing, or taking pictures, or going on a new trail every week, or exploring Maryland alone by walking different trails or different areas of the county or the state, then so be it. Document 2020 to remember it for definitely a life-changing year, but redefine it in your own way. Thank you so much again, Erica, for joining us today. We're so glad to have you. For those of you who are tuned in, we will see you next week, where Tashia Hodge will be with us for our next episode of HERVERSATION. So until next time, thank you again for joining us. See you soon.
Thanks. Thank you so much for having me.